Welcome back to episode 12 of Oneself. My name is Stephen Maher, and with me today, and with me always, is Adam Bartleman. Adam, thank you so much for joining me today, my friend.
Thanks for having me again, Stephen. Good to see you.
Good to see you, brother. Good to see you. Um, we got a good one for you today, folks. This topic is near and dear to my heart. I've learned things the hard way, coming to a conclusions of what's important to me. And we're talking about freedom and what it means to be free. I know as an American, that word can be triggering and misconstrued in a lot of ways. People chanting freedom and then voting against their interest while claiming it's all for freedom, right? Or whatever, and so I know there's this word is loaded, but it's an important word to me because there's financial freedom, there's physical freedom, right? Like if you're healthy, spiritual freedom, right? In some ways, not to be like constrained by a set of beliefs necessarily. And the first real lesson I got in freedom was financial as an 18-year-old. And I felt like I was swindled or scammed or whatever you want to call it into signing a bunch of student loan documents, and I spent the rest of my 20s paying those things off, right? And so if I didn't have that financial shackle tied to me, I probably would have lived my 20s in a different way. I probably would have done taken more risks and taken more chances, but because I had to pay off these loans, this financial shackle, I was unable to do so, right? I was unable to do the things I wanted to do because I had to work jobs I didn't particularly like, but just because like I needed a paycheck, right? And so like, like as all that's happening, I'm like, in some ways the degree gave me some opportunities. Yes, like it wasn't like I completely got like, totally swindled, but like I don't think it was worth the amount of money that I paid for it, right? And so like the promise I made to myself after paying those off, while I was paying those off, I'm like, never again am I going to be so indebted to anything, right? Financially or otherwise, that it costs me my freedom of choice, of the freedom of how to live my life, how I want. And we talk about money, right? And money is important, and in the fact that it allows you to do things. Obviously there's a lot of, greed is an issue. There's a lot of problems wrapped up in money, but it's the system we've built, and it's the game we're playing right currently. And so yeah, like the ability to make money or to have some money is nice because it allows you to do things, especially when there's billions around the world in poverty. Like I understand like there's a freedom in money. But a pattern I see with people when it comes to money too, Adam, is that there's like if you make more money, that forms its own set of handcuffs, right? It forms its own set of yeah, these like we've talked about before, like when you got a good job and these golden handcuffs and people buy the car and the bigger house, and then you're paying back that stuff too. And so it's like you're still tied to that debt. You're tied to that lifestyle. So it's like, is that freedom? I wouldn't consider that. So that's my little spiel on freedom, man. I would love to hear your thoughts, and I'd love to dive into this topic because it's near and dear to my heart. I really try to like build a lot of my life in the pursuit of being free.
Yeah, I'd have to say the same for myself, and it's interesting because there like you said, there are many different types of freedom, and it's going to be defined differently by every person, right? And it's definitely changed for me over time. My idea of what that word means has changed dramatically. It used to be tied more to money and opportunity to do things. And now it's more so about spiritual freedom and inner peace. Uh, all the while considering the fact that to move through this world, we still need to be kind of playing the game to a degree, and financial freedom is an important consideration when thinking about freedom on the grand scale. While we're here, it can and again, as I said, it changes over time. But that is also something that I have noticed is that sometimes more money, if we're going to talk about financial freedom, more money doesn't mean more freedom because if the spiritual and mental freedom has not been worked on, then that programming that's in there that just says, well, you have a bigger paycheck now, that means you got to get a more expensive car. And you, while you don't have any more financial freedom, you have the same level of debt, same level of living paycheck to paycheck, just with more expensive things. So not really being any more having any more space to move, just accruing more debt just because you can sort of afford to get that credit in the first place. And that's a pattern that I have noticed multiple times. I noticed it a little bit in myself early on. I caught on personally pretty quickly, but I've noticed it in other people too, where it's like, oh, you'd think they'd be living a happier life, making more money, but really they've just got bigger bills that come along with that bigger paycheck.
Right. There was a study. I mean, these numbers are thrown out because of inflation and, but like,
Mm,
say 10 years ago, they said like past $75,000,
mhm.
happiness didn't increase, right?
Yeah,
With inflation, that's probably like 125 or, whatever you
yeah,
want to adjust that,
150 now, yeah,
150 probably nowadays, right? But past that $150,000 that you make a year, your happiness doesn't increase. And when it comes to money, like there's never enough. There's never like a number that's like, okay, like people that are, on this path aren't like, okay, like I have enough typically, right? Like they want more and more. And so yeah, money's again, I just view it as a tool that allows you to live your life how you want, and playing that game, and whatever skills or whatever you got to keep the lights on. I'm like, I understand that you have to do that. Hopefully it's trying to help and not hurt, right? Like that's that kind of
mhm,
my whole moniker of when it comes to money. It's like, are you helping or hurting?
yeah,
You can make money and make a good living helping,
yeah,
like you don't have to hurt people and step on people on your way to build a livelihood. And so that's just like my golden rule when it comes to money. I hope people apply that to themselves as well. Like, are you truly helping, or are you hurting? And
yeah,
if you are, or if you're not, like if you're a payday loan lender, it's like like
yeah,
you're just trying to squeeze people,
yeah,
or a debt collector, it's like you're trying to squeeze people, when they're already down. And so it's like, find something else. Hopefully, it's like I know someone's going to probably do that job regardless, but just for you, for your heart, try to help, not hurt. When it comes to this money game, and it's tricky, man, because I know it's times are hard right now, and it's getting harder and harder for more people. But um, truly, just that's like my north star. When it comes to money, is just like help, don't hurt.
yeah. Can we be moving through our lives comfortably without exploiting anyone else?
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
and you can solve people's problems, and like that's helping, or and that's a good way to, yeah, fund a livelihood, right? Because you can make a lot of money exploiting people. I've seen it, and you can, but it's like at what cost? At the cost of your integrity, of your soul, of your ethics and morals. And
Yeah,
is that why the sociopaths rise the ranks in our society anyways and become the CEOs and the billionaires? It's like because they have no empathy and no morals. Yeah. And I think that's a larger issue or that speaks to a bigger issue of the system we're in, where it's like we incentivize sociopaths, to just like rise to the top,
yeah,
right? Of what, of this structure, but without any empathy or regard for their fellow human beings. I think that's a different conversation. But yeah, when it comes to this stuff, man, I just think the financial aspect, or like the freedom aspect of money, is just playing the game for me. And when it
mm,
comes to these people that are playing this game for the money, right? Like their whole pursuit is for the money. What's the other prison when it comes to freedom? The mind game, dude. The
exactly.
prison of the mind, right? You put yourself in this mental prison of, is it trauma, or is it um I don't know, whatever shackles they put on their own minds that limit themselves from living a life that is, you know, eh, positive.
Yeah, more in alignment with their soul's purpose.
Right.
Um, yeah, because someone who spends their entire life focusing on that one element of our existence here, money. uh, a made up fraudulent system in which we operate. Um, when someone's reaching a little bit later in a point a little bit later in their lives, or if they've got a health scare at some point or earlier, maybe. Generally, there comes a time where people start to self-reflect, whether it's through their own volition, or if it's some outside circumstances, which we could say is still magnetized by that person's, karmic soul blueprint for awakening. But something's coming along that is drawing the awareness to seeing like, oh, like that saying goes, you never see a U-Haul behind a hearse, right? Was it you that told me that one? I'm trying to
No,
remember.
I like
Yeah.
that though.
Yeah. But
You can't take it
yeah,
with you, brother. You can't
yeah,
take it with you.
you
You
can't take
can't
it
take
with
the
you.
money with you. You can't take the cars with you. You can't take
Yeah.
the house with you, bro.
Yeah.
It's the materialism is finite. And you're speaking on what I consider to be true wealth, and we take care of our bodies, right? We're working on taking care of our minds,
Mhm.
but and especially as we get older, my fitness philosophy has changed, but health is truly wealth. It is. Like it's truly like your ability to and I've learned this lesson too, like, like I've had this lesson with my body my entire life. Like, like you said, like with my left eye, right? The blindness in my left eye, like I've carried that gratitude, like I said in the story from a previous episode when I was 12 of like seeing the other blind children. It's like I have this gratitude for what I do have in my body,
Mhm.
and that is wealth. Like at the end of the day, like the ability to walk around and the ability to you know everyone's gotten sick and like been leveled for like 2 weeks, and you're like, oh my god, like
Yeah.
it's like, being sick is awful, and it's a hard thing, man. It's a hard thing. And so it's like, when it comes to freedom again, of like bodily freedom, what's the best way we can serve ourselves too is
Mm.
just taking care of ourselves, being cognizant of the food we put into our bodies, and as we age, right? Like I'm not like, throwing up as much weight as possible like in the weight room. I'm like, I don't want to get hurt, right? I'm like, don't
Yeah.
sprint the marathon.
Yeah.
I'm like, just, stretch a lot, and, lighter weights, maybe higher reps, or, cardio, heart health, like all that
Yeah.
stuff, dude, is like way more important to me now. Cause it's like, we've talked about this in the past, but it's like my fitness heroes are the guys that are older, that are
Yeah.
still crushing it in their 60s, 70s, maybe even 80s, right? I've seen some impressive stories of like, 80-year-old men running marathons. And I'm like, that's insane.
Yeah.
Like that's really impressive, and yeah, man, I think when it comes to this whole freedom discussion as well, um, your body isn't really important. So like what do you think about that, man? I know you take care of yourself, and I really appreciate that about you as well.
Yeah, it's one of those things, again, it's been said by many people, uh, the perspective can really shift once there's a health scare. Once someone's health is not as aligned as they would like it to be, that really drops the concerns about the other
Everything
more.
else is, yeah, falls to the wayside.
Yeah, right. And sometimes it's those intense experiences that come into our lives, whether it's happening to our own person, or if it's happening to someone close to us, something that comes along that shakes things up. And as they say, into each life, a little rain must fall. But when we start to see those things, not necessarily, when we see that rain not as a bad thing, but something that is drawing our awareness to something deeper, it's perhaps focusing our attention, bringing it back from all of the external finite things, the freedom that we're focusing on, that we're trained to focus on mostly in our society, and bringing it into what truly matters. We're coming into the body more, and then going a little bit deeper. It's a relationship with our creator, our spirituality, something that really is going to come with us when we leave this body. And whether Christian or not doesn't matter. The quote from Jesus in the Bible, lay up your treasures where rust and moth doth not corrupt. Or no, sorry, what was it? Lay not up your treasures where moth and rust doth corrupt, which just means invest all of yourself into your material goods, like, focus on your spiritual well-being, because that's the kind of thing that is not going to degrade, right? It's not going to be eaten by moths and chewed up by rust, so um that kind of thing, really, like, bringing it, the journey can be, and for a lot of people, the beginning of the journey into spirituality really does start with just coming into the body, embodiment, right? Realizing that we are in control of our health and that we should be focusing on that freedom. Like, I know for myself, years and years ago, I had heartburn all the time, like every day, heartburn. Like I was eating Tums all the time, and
Yeah.
like for a couple years, it was ridiculous. And then I eventually, one day, I just started breathing deeply into my belly, like taking a full expanded breath, not just being taking shallow little breaths in my upper chest. And instantly the heartburn went away. And
Yeah.
instantly I knew, oh my God, this was just stress. And I'm so not in my body that I wasn't even paying attention to how I breathe. So for me, that was a step toward freedom, is like coming more into my body, bringing my awareness into my body. That was an early on the sort of spiritual path kind of point
Yeah.
where I was like, man, yeah, and then that opens it up to deeper things, because I'm whatever, working lots, doing all the things I'm supposed to according to the script, the societal script, but I was, not healthy if I was having heartburn every day. My body's telling me something's off.
And you're a young
Like,
man.
yeah, and I was a man at that time. I was probably like 26 or something.
Yeah.
25, 26, and, like, it's like, what's going on here? It's ridiculous. And, yeah, that, and bringing the awareness in the body, that opened it up to go a little deeper too, to go beyond the body, go within into the consciousness. So, that resides, behind all of this, observing all of this happen. So, um, yeah, it's an important consideration, and health, absolutely. Just, getting a little more, talking about a little more, tangible things for most people is like just being able to move, being able to, being mobile and strong, moving into older age, when most people are moving around with pain and on 5 or 6 different medications. Again, I said, I used to work in emergency services. You go on a medical aid call for most people over the age of, 60, but some people even in their 50s are on, most people are on 5 or 6 different medications. And it's like,
Yeah.
whoa, man. Like, and then you meet the person who's like 80 and they're on nothing and they're like living a great life, just out and about because they're taking care of themselves. And it's like, that is
Yeah.
that is freedom. Moving around like a 30-year-old when they're in their 80s. It's like, that's cool. That's a lot of freedom.
Right.
That's really, really tangible. I mean, observe. And this is the thing, as we embark on this journey of self-discovery and awareness, I really think that such a huge part of this is becoming a keen observer of human behavior and human psychology, and noticing all the patterns. So, go out there and people watch, not with a judgmental eye, but rather just from a place of observation, and just observe how people move in their bodies. You start to notice patterns. You start to notice, like, oh, like that person's got a bad knee, that person's got a bad back, injured, I should say, not bad. But we get into observing these things, and you see, like, man, notice the patterns, notice the person who's moving well at older age, and like, what other patterns are they following? They're perhaps uh, engaged in something active, right? Or you see them eating something healthy, right? You, like, we put two and two together. This stuff is all very, very simple. And
Yeah.
um so yeah, that's what I would say about that. Physical freedom. It's
Yeah,
health, you know.
absolutely. Have
Yeah.
you heard of the blue zones?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, yeah. So for anyone not listening, right, like there's these certain areas around the world. Okinawa, Japan is one where the age of mortality is super high, right? Like it could be like, high 80s, 90s. So like the
Yeah.
average age of a lifespan is really long. And these people have quality of life for a long, long time. And I think for like Okinawa specifically, like they ate a lot of fish, they were very community oriented, they were always moving, they were always mobile. So it was like good diet, movement, community, right? Like, it's kind of like a good prescription for a long life. And so that, yeah, if anyone's curious about that, like research there's a bunch of them around the world of like where these people just live exceptionally long, healthy lives. And like you said, observing, right? Like what can we take from those lessons and try to apply in our lifestyle and to live it, right? And so they kind of got it covered, man, where it's like, the community, I think, nurtures the mind, the physical aspect nurtures the body, the food is the medicine for the body as well, and it's like they've kind of got it down for just
Yeah.
living a healthy and fulfilled life, keeping your mind sharp too. Like they're always working on their hobbies and working on
Mm.
skills. It's like learning new things constantly is keeping the mind sharp as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, man,
And
that's a lot of hard work, right? Like that's not like an easy thing to do. Like I'm not
yeah.
saying any of this is easy, right? But it's the trade-off between putting that extra work into your body and in yourself and reap the reward of having that wealth of your health.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think it's an important consideration to look at those places and look at how different their lifestyles are and whether they're in the East or, I remember seeing that documentary. I think there was one in Costa Rica. Um, but
Yeah, I think you're right.
these, not these cultures that are not so entrenched in the Western ideology, which is focused so much on financial freedom, which also comes along with it is like the individuality, uh, everyone making it for themselves. So everyone, leaving home at a young age and going out and, to make their millions. And that's sort of like the model that we have all upheld and aspired to. When we look at these other communities that live a little bit differently and, these blue zone areas with, a higher number of centenarians. It's interesting, you mentioned the community aspect, and for a lot of people, that's family and remaining connected to extended family. Where, in the West, we've got the whole nuclear family idea. We've got the rugged individualism, make it on your own, self-made person kind of thing. And while we might be chasing this financial freedom, we're losing out on these other kinds of freedom because we're undermining our own health by not being in community as much, by becoming workaholics, by not focusing on our physical well being, whatever beyond perhaps the purely from an aesthetic perspective, being motivated in that way, and so I would look at those different groups and be like, well, which one is wealthy? Like the young guy living by himself, making tons of money in a nice condo, or the person making a little bit less, but being connected with family and growing their own food and being very healthy and embodied. Because I have really shifted my perspective on that as the years of my life have rolled by and I've gotten to this point. I really value connection and peace of mind and the ability to be outside and have some freedom to have some freedom of my time as well. That's another one.
Yes.
It's freedom of
Yes.
time. So, and there was that um uh famous old story. I can't remember where I read this either. Um, but the fisherman and the industrialist. If you've heard that one, where it's like a fisherman laying on the beach, relaxing next to his boat because he's made his catch for the day. He's just chilling, and the industrialist walks up and asks him, "What are you doing? Like, why are you laying down? It's the middle of the day." And he says, "Well, I made my catch for the day." And the guy says, "Well, why don't you go out and catch more? Then you'd be able to afford a bigger net." And like, well, why would I do that? Well, if you get a bigger net, you catch more fish, and then you can afford a second boat, and then you can hire another fisherman to work for you. And, well, why would I do that? So that then you could have more financial freedom and be able to retire early and lay around on the beach. And then he goes, like, well, what am I doing right now? Like, I'm being present, right? It's like, it's about the present moment and recognizing, like, we can detach ourselves from that capitalistic mindset of always needing more and be happy with enough and find freedom in enough rather than, these exorbitant amounts that we all seem to be chasing, which again, like you said, it's like this feedback loop where we need more, we feel that we need more, greater bills, more money, more bills, and it's just a loop where, what's it really all about at the end of the day? It's like freedom, time, health, you know, spirituality.
Yeah. Time is a really important one too, man. Like, to get back some time. My dad was in, construction in Boston, like, his entire life, right? And you see these guys, a lot of them just living unhealthy lifestyles, like, drinking a lot after the job, smoking throughout the day, like, just,
Energy drinks,
energy drinks, bro.
alcohol.
You
Yeah,
you know the deal, dog. You know the deal.
yeah, yeah,
And what happens when they turn 65 and they retire? They drop
yeah,
dead, dude.
yeah.
Like,
They
time
don't
and
live
time
too long.
again, my dad would, tell us of stories of, like, "Yep, this guy retired and died a month later, 2 months later." Because it's like
Oh,
when that purpose of, or whatever was keeping them going, like, just ends, it's like suddenly they have nothing, and their
mhm,
body just gives out. And so, again, when it comes to time, it's like, I am not waiting till retirement to do cool things or, like,
yeah,
to
exactly.
live my life, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not giving my time to again, freedom, right? To, like, someone else for the next 30 years and then maybe getting 15 years to myself after I've
Mhm,
given my youth to someone else,
yeah,
And it's like, no, like, I'm giving myself my youth now, and I'm not being that guy. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Where it's like I work my whole life because, again, it's not even promised. That retirement isn't even promised to
no,
me. It's like stuff can happen when you get older, especially, it's like, and even when you're younger, stuff can happen, right? Like, we could be gone tomorrow, and so when it comes to freedom of time, yeah, man, that is a huge priority for me. And I'm not waiting until I'm old to
yeah.
to live a cool life.
Yeah, it's like we're asked to give away our best years in service, and support of someone else's, financial
Yeah.
venture, or
Yes.
even if it's our own thing where we're sort of caught in that rat race, we're caught in that, keeping up with the Joneses thing, which is just feeding this machine, which it doesn't contribute to our happiness and well-being in the present moment, which is all that we ever have. And that is, if I could impress upon anyone, like, one thing to take away from this conversation is, like, it's always all about the present moment because that's the only time that is the only time.
Yeah.
It's like that
That's
is
all that
that is
is.
it's nothing is ever occurring outside of that. So when we really have this, we've had this sort of model impressed upon our minds, our subconscious collectively, that it's like work hard now and then relax later. Like, give yourself away, give your time away, beat yourself up physically, and don't have any time or energy to grow or mature mentally, spiritually, emotionally. And then, when you're in your 50s or 60s, that's when you're allowed to chill and work on yourself. Like, why not the whole time? And why not, and to work on yourself as well as enjoy yourself? And it's like, why not the whole time? Why do we need so much? We consume, like, what is it, 10 times the amount of resources in the West? Like, if a child is born in the West versus, say, I mean, I know these things are shifting, and obviously, so a place like India is now developing, incredibly rapidly and has a massive population. But still, even the amount of resources that a kid in the West takes versus a kid in the East, it's insane. And you just see it when when you have friends or family that have a baby, like the amount of toys and clothes, and it's like that's like that gets all piled on for one little child. It's like it's insane. Or, like what we saw in Guatemala, in some of those Mayan villages, like these people are living with much less, and they're living, obviously there's trauma everywhere, but a lot of interconnected, um
They're rich.
community.
Yeah, they're rich in
Yeah,
community. you know?
Yeah, absolutely, and no, this is a very big topic and nuanced, and obviously we're not covering every angle here, but if we're looking specifically from that perspective, I think it's easy to say that like we use too much in the West, you know, and like in North America, we consume a lot. We have an insane consumer culture, and that is what drives a lot of um the creation of the personal prisons that we build for ourselves is believing that we need to do these things. That's like that takes away our freedom, believing that we need to do what everyone else does. Like I'm making more money now, well, then I got to get a nicer car because all my peers have nice cars or like more expensive cars, I should say. And this is I don't feel like I don't fit in if I'm in this bracket now, but I don't have the toys that go along with it. I feel left out. I feel weird. This stuff all comes down to very, very basic, very like childish stuff. And when we look at it more closely, we can see that these are unhealed parts of our ego that originated from, 4, 5, 6 years old. And it really starts to make sense. And when we are able to see that and we apply that, we look through that lens at what's going on around us, we see, I mean, I personally see a lot of 4-year-olds in 40-year-old bodies with millions of dollars in the bank account. That's what I see.
Yeah.
I've observed it many times,
Yeah.
and I'm like that. There's no real freedom going on there because there's a constant anxiety of keeping up with everyone else and their own judge that lives within themselves, judging their own behaviors. And it's like somebody gets to the point of being in Forbes magazine, and then that I don't want to be the fifth richest guy. I want to be the richest guy. I want to be like the top of my field. And it's just there's so much like silly, petulant, little childish ego stuff going on in there that is detracting from our freedom.
Yeah, man. No, I think it's and again, when I see people fall in the trap, right? I fell a little bit into the trap, right? Where it's like the student loan thing, but like, what's the next step to that? It's like getting the car, getting the house, having kids. And it's like, oh my God, like you're in, not that there's anything wrong with any of that, if those are your goals, but just recognize that like you are stuck
Yeah,
to those debts, and to those things. And I think debt's a form of imprisonment as well, there's you look in history and there were debtors' prisons, and it's like, well, people in debt can't make the money back once they're in prison, so it's
yeah,
like you're better off just having them get in more debt and having them continue to make those payments because like you can make more money off of them, right?
exactly.
And
It's insidious.
so it's insidious, man. And so like I was already the first step along that path for sure before I was like, I'm out. I'm not doing this again, with any of those other next purchases, and because again, it just restricts my life. Like it dictates my decisions for me. And
Exactly.
and again, there's nothing wrong. Like if that's the life you want, if you want the house, if you want the picket fence, if you want the kids, like it's like go get it. But when my priority is freedom, I acknowledge that lifestyle isn't really free, man. Like it's just you got to pay it back. You got to pay it back in this game that we're playing, in this system that we've set up. And that's just not where my priorities lie.
No.
They're just in a different spot. They're just in a different spot from that. And I look at my peers now, right? 30 years old. What are we? Graduated high school when I was 18, so like 12 years out, right? And I look at my peers, and a lot of them are doing that thing. And
Mhm.
again, there's no judgment here. Like if that's the life they want, but what do we talk about, like, in a previous episode? It's like the midlife crises. Like, when the 5, 7 years happen, 10 years, 15 down the line, we're going to start seeing the divorces. We're going to start seeing the midlife crises. We're like, all that stuff's on its way too, man. It's just a matter of time,
Yeah,
so it's like, point of that being is like, don't succumb to the pressure of the societal forces.
Exactly.
unless it's truly what you want and you're truly in a great relationship and it's, and you recognize it for what it is. But I just, like, I want people to acknowledge what that system is set up for, and
Yeah.
it's to chain us. It's to chain us to to our things, right? To our things,
Yeah.
to our cars, to our houses, to that lifestyle.
Yeah, exactly, and it's like, again, the model and through which we're doing it, like, it's sure, like, build your wealth, but the fact that we keep splitting ourselves off into these, like, nuclear families, kids leaving home and having to start from scratch rather than building at least even just like an extended family community like so many other cultures around the world do, where the kids don't leave home until they're getting married. Like I spent time in South America. It's very, very normal for kids to live at home with no consideration of ever leaving into their late 20s. And then, again, other cultures where everyone's living in, like, the entire extended family's living in a big house or in, maybe a little compound kind of vibe, a few houses close to each other, or apartments close to each other so that they can share resources. And because this is a very effective way to move through this world, especially if we can apply that now to this like extremely capitalistic society that we live in here in the West. There's a lot to be like, we can benefit a lot from that. But you were mentioning, like, if you want to go into that sort of life, if you want the family and the house, and like, and you like follow that path, um you're really kind of restricting yourself in from one perspective. You're kind of pigeonholing yourself, and like, you got to stay in the job then, right? Like like
30-year mortgage.
exactly, and like you said, with the example of, midlife crises, if someone does have a shift, if someone does recognize that the way they've been living their life does not align with a deeper awareness that perhaps they've arrived at along their journey, they don't always have the option of getting out of it and making a big change because they have those bills. Like, for me, in my example, being 10 years into my career as a firefighter, and then just blowing it up and walking away. If I had kids, I wouldn't have been able to do that. Like, if I was, enjoying my job for the first half of it, and then it started to taper off, and then I came to had a big realization and shifted my awareness and realized I didn't like it anymore and didn't align with me whatsoever. And I had an awakening, and I was like, okay, time to go. Done. Like, walk away. But if I had kids, I would have been like, "Oh, well, can't really, just float around and, figure things out for the next little while. Like, I gotta pay the bills." It's like,
Right.
it would not be an option. "Okay, I'm gonna sell the house and the car and leave and travel for a few years, like, bye." It's like, no, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
Um, unless I wanted to be a deadbeat dad, so I had that freedom because I had already made the choice to not follow the script. And again, not putting anyone down, not judging, but having a family and having kids and stuff. But I did observe a lot of people who were just going along with it, who didn't necessarily want to have kids. They get kind of pressured into it. I know that when I went through some big shifts in my life, I had guys at my old workplace pulling me aside. Like, when I left a toxic relationship, when I decided to get a vasectomy, I had guys pull me aside in private and be like, "Dude, good for you, man. Like, oh man, if I had to do it over again, I would do what you're doing. Like, I wish I had done what you did." And I'm like, these would be guys who had young kids, who had
Yeah.
maybe, and I'm like, in the moment, I was just like, "Wow, that is heavy."
Heavy.
I had people kind of confide in me that they would have done their lives completely differently, that they were
Yeah.
living that they were
"Hey,
lit
man,
oh,
I hate my life."
essentially, and well, that's where I arrived at too, was recognizing that I hated my life. It was like, well, I have all of these advantages and privileges, and I'm living a great life on paper. I was, living in BC, and with a great job. I had a condo. Like, things were going great, and I recognized that despite all of that, I still hated my life. And I was like, "So what is wrong here? Because this is like this is offensive. I have my life is so good on paper. This is offensive to people that don't have as many advantages and opportunities that I have. So, like, I have to fix this because this is ridiculous. Like, on paper, it's so good, and yet I'm so unhappy. This is not okay. Like, I gotta make a change." And so I did, and I had the freedom to do that because I had gotten out early enough too, like you. I did a couple things earlier in my life, which was following the script, but I very quickly recognized, and just for me, my personal journey was like, just my personal thing was like, I know I don't want to have kids, and no one's gonna pressure me into. And I had it happen a handful of times where people tried to pressure me, like when I
Same,
was dating,
same.
and and I said no, and I stuck to my truth, and I'm so glad that I did because, man, I've reflected on that a few times over the years. Like, what if I had just like kind of gone along with it, and
Yeah.
I would
And had a
obviously,
kid with the wrong person.
yeah, and then would be split up and co-parenting, and not that there's anything wrong with that. Again, that's everyone's journey, but it was not something that I wanted. And I knew that I didn't want that early on. So if I had gone against that and then found myself years later sitting in this position where I'm like, boy, I I I'm living a life that I don't want to live, and I'm probably not being as good a parent as I could be because like I wasn't really into it in the first place. That would be really, really depressing. That would be really hard. And I know that that drives people to substance abuse and even things like suicide because they've recognized that they've kind of gone off of their they've lost their compass essentially at some point. And I know it. I observed it. I felt like I saw it happen, but that was still some assumption that was based on my observations. But then when I had people specifically pull me aside in private and talk about that, I was like, holy smokes, man. Like my suspicions were correct. I think that a lot of people are just following the script for what they think is the right thing to do, get the job that makes more money rather than the job that they're really excited about that maybe makes a little bit less. And, stay with the person they've been dating for a few years just because they're familiar with them, and, it would be
Yep.
too much to break up and get married because that's just what everybody does, and have a couple kids because that's what everyone else is doing, and everybody wants to fit in. And it's like I couldn't. I saw it sort of coming. I saw that timeline. I saw the possibility of going down that timeline, and I just like wanted to throw up. It was just like just so the most off-putting thing I could
No, you
possibly.
see your future. You see the script
Yeah,
of your future. Same here, dude. I saw 5 years down the line. I'm like, I'm gonna be
yeah,
fucking miserable if I, yeah, get like, get married, have the kids, like with this, with that person,
yeah,
right? You know what I mean? Because it wasn't right. It wasn't right for me.
yeah,
And you said freedom when it comes to like relationships too, dude. It's like, yeah, man, like people choose the wrong people because they don't want to be alone, or it's easier to just go along with it. But it's like, again, back to freedom, like like you don't got none, like it's
exactly.
gone, right? Because you're with maybe the wrong person for you, but you're just doing it because it's easier to go along with it. But then you're free. Like in ideal relationships, like your partner's your biggest cheerleader, your biggest supporter. Like they support your goals and dreams and aspirations, and your freedom to choose the life that you want and build it together, and vice versa. Like you're both supporting each other and building that greater whole when you come together. But it's like when you throw that out the window and just kind of settle, you give all that up, you know?
Yeah,
And if that's the bed, you make, like, yeah, lie in it, I guess. But yeah, it can end in awful ways, in suicide, or, these terrible ways that people just like, I made, I'm out, like,
yeah, and abandon their
and
families. Yeah,
just abandon it. Yeah, or they run away or abandon. It's just like that's not right either, man. Like
yeah.
that's just like, that's wrong too.
And the most common way that I saw people dealing with it was just sweeping it under the rug, putting on a smile, to cover the pain, and just drinking. Like, I saw so much alcoholism in throughout my life, the different jobs I've worked in, the different friends, the different, friend groups I've had. There's just been so much masking because the freedom, the joy wasn't followed toward that freedom in the first place because we've been conditioned
Yeah.
to think that it's not safe to go against the grain, to do something unique, to not be exactly like everyone else. And as I've said before, that was one of the ways that I really saw it in my old uh, profession was like the guys that were 10 years older than me who were doing the exact same thing as what I was doing. And I'm like, okay, this person is 10, 15 years older than me, and they seem exactly like me right now. And I'm discovering that I am emotionally immature. I have a lot of unprocessed trauma. I have addictions, and I'm discovering that my life is a mess. And I'm looking at this person who's 10 or 15 years older than me, and they're exactly the same. So like that's me in 10 or 15 years. Nothing has changed. If anything, things have gotten slightly worse. And I'm just going like, oh my God, I can't, like, no, I don't have
Yeah.
kids. I'm like, I don't have any need to stay. Again, for me, my personal journey was that job that I was in. I don't have any need to stay here. So I'm hitting the eject button.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
out of here, man, because
Yeah. Yeah.
this is scary. I've seen it and I cannot unsee it.
I know, dude. I have specific memories in my mind, and I'm like, see the future. I'm like, fuck that.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly,
like,
bro,
fuck
exactly.
that, dude. Like,
Yeah.
fuck that. No way am I gonna make those same mistakes. And younger child thing, right? Like, younger. I'm the youngest son, so it's like I see the mistakes of like the people older than me, my brothers, my
Such a
sisters. You know what I mean?
benefit.
Like,
Yeah,
it's like I see the wrong things that they did, and it's like I'm not doing that shit. And it's like you can apply that to other people too. It's like I see these mistakes. I'm not blind to the I see the misery on your face. Like it's like you're not in a happy relationship or a happy life. Like you're fucking miserable. I see it. And I don't want that. Like,
yeah.
I want to like living my life.
Yeah, and it's so important to just, like, I mean, from my perspective, it's so important to drive this point into people's minds that, like, really look at yourself. Just because you're doing the things that everyone else says, um, are supposed to be signs of freedom, like, okay, yeah, you got the I don't know, you got the cottage on the lake and you got a boat, and, so you and your buddies can go up there and go drink or whatever it is. It's like you've got you're playing golf on the weekend, like, I'm doing the things that everyone else says are like the markers of success. Are you really happy though? Like, I remember, I think it was Old School, that movie from like the early 2000s with Will
Will
Ferrell.
Ferrell, yeah, 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 yeah.
And he's like the guys at the office, and two of his coworkers are trying to get invited to come to their like man child fraternity thing that they'd started. And the one guy's like, come on, man, I need this. I need this. Like, I need to be invited into the club. He's like, yeah, like, I am doing all right. I play golf on the weekends and everything. He's like, he leans in, but I hate golf. And I'm like, that's just like that scene always stuck in my mind because I just I just I just saw it I just saw it play out in different ways, like with the people, my old peer groups, like they're doing all the things that, and maybe some of them sincerely enjoy those things. Like, I'm not judging any of it, but like, and I know, yeah, sure, people love golf, but like, but
Yeah,
like I could just sense it. Sometimes people are like just going along with it. It's like, yeah, like the guys are watching the hockey game or the football game, and like, I don't think everyone in here even likes it, but it's just like this masculinity signaling thing that like, yeah, yeah, no, I'm part of the group. Don't worry, like, don't look at me any closer. I'm part
yeah,
of the team. I'm
yeah. Go
perhaps too
sports.
afraid. Yeah, go sports. I'm too afraid to be my own unique self, but like, and man, I'm just like, a lot of this is assumption, but I'm like, I consider myself a keen observer of human behavior.
Yeah, dude.
And it was like,
Yeah,
man, I see it. And like you said, you can see it on people's faces. And the confirmation again then later came when people were actually pulling me aside. And that was when I started to make such dramatic shifts in my life and to go against the grain of like my peer group, that people were like, "Whoa, what's up?" And like, "Why are you so
Yeah,
happy?" I literally had people asking me,
yeah.
"Why are you so happy? Like, what has changed?" Because I used to be part of the part of the team. I was a grumpy, hard drinking, pessimistic guy, like fitting in with everybody else. And then when I shifted that, it was like, what? That breaks the pattern. And what's going on? And that's when I heard the truth. That's when I heard the truth spoken from the mouths of the people experiencing it. And I was like, man, do not be afraid to go against the grain. Do not be afraid to stray from the flock a
No,
little bit. It's worth it.
right,
It's fucking
right.
worth it.
It's
Yeah.
fucking worth it, dude.
Yeah.
Fucking worth it. And yeah, man. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I just have such a profound sense of gratitude towards myself. I'm sure you do too,
Yeah, man.
because I made those calls in those moments,
You remained in
and
integrity
yes, to
toward
myself,
yourself. Exactly,
right?
which is the most
Yeah,
important.
and right, and here's what else is gonna happen to these people. Everyone is gonna look at you like you're crazy, or gonna think you're crazy, like parents,
Happened to me.
shout out to my yeah, yeah, right? Shout out to my sister though, because she was always like, "Fucking do you, dude. Like, just do
Yeah,
you." You know what I mean? And
yeah,
I was like, so I really resonate. Shout out to my older sister because she's just always been there for me, making my crazy life decisions. But you're gonna get a lot of blowback from people, like just like anticipating what's gonna happen, right? It's like when you finally put yourself forward and you live yourself for you, um, people are going to say things like you said. People are going to pull you aside. They're going to be maybe jealous of what you're doing. They're going to be, maybe a little angry because it's like they didn't have that. You're a mirror for them. You're triggering for them because they didn't have the
100%.
ability to do that for themselves. They might be happy for you, but it's just like you're going to get the spectrum of
Yeah.
emotions and pushback and questions and all that stuff. Like, what are you doing? Do you have a plan? Like you're going to
Yeah,
get it all.
yeah.
And that's okay. Just like stand firm. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
stand firm and stand firm and stand guard of yourself and stand true to you because it's like you're all you got, at the end of the day. Um and so I'm just like because we both been through that and like, everyone comes out of the woodwork and just has something to say about it.
yeah.
you know?
Yeah, it's very important. It's if you're getting that blowback, if you're meeting resistance from the external, that's a sign that you're on the right path. And I mean, that's really all I could say
Cause you're
because that
free. Cause you're
yeah,
free.
yeah, and that's you know, when you mirror things back to people, that's when you're gonna get some of the nastiest reactions because again, it's like this maybe there's a deep realization. There's a deep realization that there's something that you're doing that they're yearning to do or wish they could have done. And there's an acknowledgement that they at some point have not been in integrity with themselves and they have pushed themselves aside in order to follow the script that everyone else is following and that can create a great amount of resistance within them and a great reaction because there will be those opposing parts of their consciousness that are one is saying like hey what's that all about and the other one's saying like no no don't look at that because if we open that can of worms it's gonna be ugly that means we're tearing the whole lid off the whole thing and we might have to make some big changes. This is why people like I've had people say to me like, "Oh, like you've done an ayahuasca ceremony? Oh man, isn't that the thing that people do and like after they quit their jobs and leave their wives?" And I like I've had people literally ask me that. And I've been like a couple times, like more than once, and I've been like, "Well, I mean, yeah, possibly, like maybe that definitely like that is not unheard of. I mean, it's kind of what happened to
yeah.
me." But, like,
Yeah.
in a few different ways, but, like, essentially, yeah, and then people are like, "Oh, yeah, no, like, I would never try that, that's scary, that scares me," or I had somebody's like, "I had a bad mushroom trip once when I was a teenager, and, oh, never again," and it's like, what is that? Like, what is a bad trip? It just side note, what is a bad trip? It's like something that you didn't wanna look at in your unconscious was brought up in your subconscious. So it was mirroring something back to you that you're afraid to change because it would be too uncomfortable. But hey, again, with this greater discussion, growth occurs outside of our comfort zone. And for me, if I heard something like that, isn't that this, the thing that you do and then maybe you leave your wife and quit your job? Like I hear that and I'm like, whoa, like, sign me up, I'm like, because I wanna grow. I don't
Yeah.
wanna stay I've had enough experiences that have drawn my awareness to the point that I know the growth is happening and has to happen at some point. Like, we're not avoiding anything here. This is like this finite mindset and this belief in separation and death as being an end. People are like, "No, I'm just gonna cruise out, coast the rest of my life here feeling," keeping it comfortable, keeping it nice and steady. I don't want to rock the boat too much. And it's like, well, guess what? You're not going to avoid any growth. Like you're going to be doing it in your next incarnation. You're going to be doing it on some level of your multidimensional existence. So why not do the work now? You're like we are in this dimension of extreme polarity and limitation and this belief in lack and separation from ourselves and each other. This is a really rowdy playing field to come to work through our karma, and it's like recognize it as such, and take the opportunity that it is to grow and do some stuff that goes against the grain and rocks the boat and causes all those square people in your life to to point fingers and cast some stones, because if that's happening, it means you're on the right fucking track. If you're upsetting the people who are staying in the flock, then that's a good thing. That is absolutely a good thing. Nothing
Yeah.
nothing like revolutionary was ever done by following the
Going with the
script that was
flow.
that going
Yeah.
yeah, like by following the herd, it's like, man, we we have such an opportunity here. There's such an opportunity to express ourselves and to grow and to be our most authentic selves. And it is such a waste to follow the script and just do the same shit that everyone else is doing and, you know, just deify material things and be so caught up and absorbed in something that is finite. There's no hearse being followed by a U-Haul. It is you cannot take any of this shit with you, but you can, invest in the treasures that moths and rust cannot corrupt. You can invest in yourself, in your in your being, in your soul, and that is what you absolutely can take with you, and which will turn down the volume on all of the other nonsense in this material world. Um, that's the truth as far as I can see it.
Yeah, brother. I think that's probably a good place to cap it. Earth, dude, Earth is rowdy, man. But it's an
It is.
opportunity, you
It
know?
is. It's a beautiful
It's a rowdy
opportunity.
place. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. I love this discussion, dude. It's really near and dear to my heart. So Adam, I just appreciate you taking the time to talk about freedom, what that really means for us. And yeah, man, thank you for a great episode 12. If anybody listening likes what they hear, please support us, leave a comment, leave a review, subscribe to us. We're doing this every week, folks. So, we got them hot and ready for you. So
Yeah.
come along this journey, man. Come on. I know we're again against the grain, but if you like that, if you resonate with that, come with us, the
Mhm.
Timothy Leary quote, right? Find the others, like come find us. We're better together, like just like we were talking about community. So Adam, any
Yeah.
closing thoughts on what it means to be free in this world?
Yeah, I mean, it's if we focus on our spiritual freedom, all of the other things it has a trickle down effect. If we focus on our spiritual freedom, the rest of it just takes care of itself. We really just have to focus inward. We don't need to reach into the external to try and control anything. I know that the entire program has told us that we need to struggle and reach, in order to make these things work for ourselves. But really, all that's called on all that is called on of us is to find ourselves and be our most authentic selves. And if you're getting that resistance and people are calling you crazy, that is 100% a good thing. Keep going.
Go on, baby. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening to episode 12 of Oneself. We'll catch you next time.